Today is February 26th, 2025. My name is Laurel Pinchback. I'm interviewing Felipe Garcia in Austin, Texas for the Voces Oral History Center. We are at the University of Texas at Austin campus. Thank you, Mr. Garcia, for agreeing to this interview.
No, thank you.
Just a couple of notes at the top. The raw, unedited recording of this interview will be archived at the Nettie Lee Benson Latin American Collection on the UT campus, where it will be available to anyone who wishes to access it. If there's anything you don't wish to talk about, we respect your wishes. Also, if there's something you want to discuss, please do make sure we discuss it. Please also let us know if you need to pause the interview. Today, we are going to talk about your life experiences. As part of this, we'll also discuss your life, your time as a Vietnam vet, and your work as a veteran. And if you're ready, Mr. Garcia, let's begin with your childhood.
I'm ready.
Could you please tell me about your childhood?
Okay, I was born here in Austin, Texas, down the street on 3rd and 4th Street, 3 and 4. The house I was born in is called, it's a compound, Waterloo Compound, very historic place. And we rented a little house, outdoor restroom, and in those days. And my building, the one I was born in, it's used to be, I hope it still is, the 4th oldest wooden structure in the city of Austin. It's about 7 blocks away from here, the University of Texas, and it's about 7 blocks from the state capitol. And we would play up and down on Waller Street that was next to the Capitol, next to the University of Texas. And that was our playground. Downtown, Colorado River back then, now it's Town Lake. But on both sides, the left and on the east side and the west side of Interstate 35. But it was all there. I went to Palm School. And then I went to a little school, and then I went to another, it was junior high back then. I went to a junior high school down the street here. It was called University Junior High, and it was a building that they use now for educating administrators in schools, in the school systems. And we were there and completed the 8th grade, was the last grade. Okay, so.
What would you say were the biggest influences during your childhood?
Oh, wow. I had a lot of big influences. They are my brother, my oldest brother, Tony. And Tony was a special ed kid, but he was sharp. He was a hard worker. He was a hustler. My father wasn't a worker. He wasn't a hustler, you know. And he got together with this lady who became our stepmother, Merced Ruiz, and she used to pay all the rent. She worked downtown at either Austin Hotel or Driscoll Hotel, and she never made more than 25 to 30, maybe her last year or something before she retired, $35 a week. And she fed us and clothed us. It was very meager, simple, and it was thanks to her that we had some food and had a roof over our head. Okay, and I come out of the neighborhood. I was redheaded. I'm trying to show whatever's left. But I was red hair with freckles, and there was only 1 or 2 of us like that in the community. I'm talking about all of East Austin. And my name became Colorado. When we went to school speaking Spanish. That's our first language. Spanish was our first language, and then English became our second language. And my parents' day, the people didn't want Mexicans going to school because they didn't want them to learn English because they could use them as labor, pure labor. But when we went to school, they took our names, they changed our names to English names, and they changed our name to English, and we weren't allowed to speak Spanish at school at all. So it was kind of difficult the first 2 or 3 years, and then after that you'd fall into place and follow the rules. And but my name was never changed. If you were Mary, you were changed to Maria. I mean, Maria, you got changed to Mary. Gerardo to Jerry. Jose to Joe. Juan to John. Jesus to Jesse, and they would change your name. But mine, they didn't know that this has taught me a lot about the school system. The teachers, 90% of our school at Palm School was 99.9% Mexican. The teachers were 99% white. And it shows that they didn't know that Felipe was Philip. They didn't know that Felipe is the F sound. Felipe is Philip, the PH sound. So they never changed my name. But Felipe, you come up here, Felipe. So I was able to keep my name through school, and I like my name. I like my nickname. We learned. I was Güero, Colorado, in Spanish. But as soon as we got into school, we learned that Colorado was red. So we got smart. It was slick, Call them red. Just call them red, Colorado.
Did the teachers call you Red?
Who?
The teachers?
Oh, no. That was a no. Nobody had used their nicknames. All of us had a nickname, but it was never used. We were not allowed to use our nickname at school. It was always our given name.
Okay. And then where did you grow up?
I grew up in East Austin, right here down the street. Right down the street. I played on these grounds here at the university. I played on the state capitol. We were out there running. We'd go inside and drink water in the state capitol. You'd go over here and, when we use the bathroom, we'd just go into the state capitol. It's there. It's still wonderful to go in that building and run up and down, the stairs and stuff like that. And it's wonderful. The university, we'd come over here and we'd go to, I forget the name now. What's it called right here where they have the cafeteria or they have a cafe and then we used to have dances there. We used to have all kinds of stuff and some bars, and you can drink alcohol at this building here just down the street. The main building. It's the main building here at UT.
The Union? The Union?
The Union. That's it, the Union Building. That's exactly what it was. We used to go in the Union Building, walk in and out and stuff, walking down and try to play with the squirrels and stuff in those days. And we would, it was just the drag. We'd walk up and down the drag, go all the way down to downtown. And we spend all our time on either playing and stuff on Waller Creek. Interstate 35 had a island right in the middle of it. One going north, 2 lanes going north, 2 going the other direction. But we had a little island there that was pretty about 15 feet, 16, 20 feet wide, maybe 25 feet wide. And we would be, everybody in the afternoon, you could go out there and it was full of people. No AC in those days, so everybody was out there. Us kids, we'd be out there playing football or catch or something on this little island.
What is one of the biggest differences you've noticed about Austin now versus Austin when you were growing up here?
East Austin is white now. East Austin used to be all brown. And it's amazing how things go through cycles. And East Austin used to be white. When we were very little bitty kids and when my parents were first living here, Austin was white. East Austin was white. Then it turned brown, and some sections turned black. But back then, when I was a kid, you had black East Austin, white East Austin, and brown East Austin. Everybody was segregated, and it didn't change until later on when, during the '60s, I worked at the Holiday House down the street. There was a Holiday House hamburger joint, and when I first got married, that's where I worked at. My cousin managed us. That restaurant, that hamburger place, and I would work there, and you'd see all these people. The hippie movement was beginning, and that was the change of Austin. You could see these people that couldn't stand each other and didn't like each other before, as far as colors and stuff. These white kids coming down into East Austin, And then now you find all these people that didn't like each other smoking that same cigarette together. You know, they out there smoking, sharing that same cigarette. Everybody's getting loaded in those days, you know. And so you saw changes like that. You could see the society changing, how people were starting to go. The laws changed, is what I want to say. I'll talk about that some other day, about the laws changing. We'll talk about Vietnam now. Yeah.
Can you tell me about the Salvation Army Youth Center?
Oh yeah, that's it. That's the king, boy. That's Salvation Army Youth Center was on the corner of Holly Street and I-35, and it was a recreation center that the Salvation Army used to, but they used to fund, and we had great supervision there. The Ruiz, Jimmy Ruiz, and Buddy Ruiz, they were the Ruiz family. Somehow their father they weren't. Their mother wasn't part of the Salvation Army Church, but the father was. So he had he got his sons to work there that were older, real mature, real good, great role models and stuff. So we'd go to the Salvation Army Youth Center to play every day after school. You might go home and change and do whatever and eat whatever, or then you'd end up at the Salvation Army. When we were in elementary, we were the first ones in there. We'd go straight down there as soon as the doors open. We'd want to shoot pool. They had a pool table. So we'd be shooting pool, and then the guys from junior high would get there because that school was let out, and they would kick us off the table because they were better, but then they controlled the table. Then the high school kids came after their school, and they controlled the table. So then, and all of us were given nicknames. All of us had a wonderful environment there. We learned in an incidental way. We learned how to behave. We learned how to respect one another. Oh, we had some squabbling and some fights, but they'd get it on, and in a few minutes fight, they were already friends again. And that's the way it was, you know. It was a great place for us kids to grow up in and to spend time in. And we were in organized sports there, and we would play other teams throughout the city, and baseball and basketball and stuff like that. But it was everybody liked each other, the girls, the boys. Everybody had respect for each other. You got to know everybody there in the area. From age 0 to age 30 or 40, because they had a men's softball team too. And then you had the high school guys that were older than us, and then we became the junior high guys. And then we became the high school age people. And then I got married real young. I got married, I was 16. And already a father and married, and so I didn't go so much. I had to work. I started working then, and I started. Well, that was why I left school. You know, I needed money. I wasn't reading. I didn't know how to write or read or that. And started going to dances, and I met my wife, my girlfriend. We were boyfriend and girlfriend for a couple of years, and then we had our first son, then our second son, and stuff like that. We did everything backwards. My wife also, in those days you couldn't go to school when you were pregnant. Okay, so she had her son. She was pregnant, so she stayed at home, and then she went to work, and I went to work, and we raised our children. We started everything backwards. We got married, went to work, or got married, had our children, or got pregnant, got married, and then had our children, you know. And my oldest son he was there at the wedding. He doesn't know that, but he was inside my wife's stomach, or you know, her uterus and stuff like that. And so it was, and it was from there. It was just work, hustle, and until I joined the Marine Corps at 18.
Where did you work during that time?
I worked, when I first got married, I did a little bit of construction and stuff like that. And then I went to work here at the Holiday House, the hamburger joint. And I stayed there for a good year or so. and made some good friends there. And I learned a couple of things that I used for the rest of my life. And that was please, thank you, may I help you, sir? May I help you, ma'am? To this day, those are the strongest weapons I can use on somebody. It's may I help you, please? Can I serve you? Can I take care of you? You know, thank you, and all of this other stuff. Those kind words, they have been a real serious part of my life. I learned that at the Holiday House. Everybody, it was a powerful culture. They call it a culture. I didn't know that then, but everybody was polite. Everybody was respectful. Everybody worked as a team, and we were all very obedient and stuff. And that was a grand place for me to be, because I had been, even though I didn't have a mother and stuff, I had a lot of aunts and cousins and friends. And we were the little kids in the neighborhood. We were the los polacos. We were the orphans, and they would. We got a lot of. Everybody knew us. Everybody knew us. They knew we were good kids, and I learned in East Austin, and I learned there at the parks and all of that. I learned a thing called. I call it. I used it. I didn't label it till way later, when I was a really super grown man, that I realized what helped me go in a good direction were the role models that we saw, that we had, and stuff like that. The other one was my family was religious. They were hardcore Baptists, and God loves you, but you're going to hell, boy, with that kind of stuff there. And but my aunts and all of that, they were very empathetic. My cousins, I don't know if we were lucky. We were showered with love. At least that's what I think happened in my childhood with my cousins and aunts and stuff. And to this day, we were showered with love. And then the neighborhood was very tolerant with us. And so I was just the Salvation Army. We had all those sports. We had to learn. You work with teamwork. I didn't know what it was doing back then, but your teamwork, and then you're serving. You're acting appropriate. You're being appropriate. And we had very few bad kids, or that grew up to be bad. And that's why I tell people, dropping out. A lot of the people I went to school with, the system. I want people to understand when I talk about the school system. I'm not a pessimist. Don't believe I am pissed off. I went to Palm School for 6 damn years, and when I left Palm School, I didn't know how to read or write. When I went in the Marine Corps, I didn't know how to read or write. Okay? Then I went in the Marine Corps, and I saw I had potential. When I was there, I saw these guys there, boy, and I saw them, a few people had been to college, some high school graduates and stuff in the Marine Corps, but I had potential. I saw it. I couldn't read and write, but I could catch on really quick. And in the Marine Corps, you just had to, you didn't speak up. You didn't talk, okay? You did what you were told. You had to be obedient, and they expected you to have a IQ of 2 points below plant life, or 2 points below the life of a rock, because you don't get paid to think. You don't do any of this stuff, okay? So I saw in the military is the first option for anybody. I'm going to tell you it right now. The first option's got to be the military. And the reason I tell you is because of, one, the environment that you're thrown in. Everybody is ambitious like you. Everybody wants to do something with their life. Everybody is trying to serve their country. And right now in our country, we have only 5 states are putting people in the military, because nobody wants to join the military anymore. And it's heartbreaking, because that's where I got my degree. They paid for my school. The government paid for my school. My son went to the Air Force. His school was paid for. He graduated at this school. I have medical attention. I was contaminated with Agent Orange. I have heart disease, real bad ischemic heart disease from the Agent Orange. They would just spread it out there, and then they'd send us in there, and we'd say, no, we don't. You know, we don't want to go in there. No, you just go ahead. Nothing's going to hurt you. It doesn't hurt human beings. It just hurts the vegetation. You walk around, but they killed that cow over there. He said, yeah. Yeah, but that cow's a cow. Our leadership didn't know the difference between a mammal, whether it was a human or a cow or whatever, and so they'd send us in there, and years later, oh, you got this, you got it because of us, and that's where and we're going to, we admit to it, and we're going to give you a little bit of money, and we're going to take care of you for the rest of your life, which your life is going to be cut 10, 15, 20 years. My son, the same thing. He was in the Air Force, and he has medical. And if you're looking for medical when you get old, you don't need it when you're young. You need it when you get old. You need that. The other thing in the military is you need these people. You need that time to think after high school. You've been in high school, you've been around with them. You need time to get in there and organize your life, see what's going on, what's people your age are doing, and what are opportunities that the world has for you. The first option should be military. They pay you good now. They paid us. I used to get, when I went in, I got $52 a month. That was my salary, 52. Now they pay you multi-thousands of dollars. You have money to buy toys, you have cars, computers. You got money. They pay you good money, and not everybody fights in a war.
Can we circle back to your time at UT? Would you tell me a little bit about that?
Okay. I left the Marine Corps angry. I was angry. I was hard-headed. I knew exactly. In the military, everything is from the top down, top to bottom. And you don't challenge, you don't ask questions. Everybody, you just do what you're told. You got to be compliant. And what you're told, you got to do it. Let me give you an example of what I mean, how much power that means for the military. You have to, you can be out there on the street. For you people that are religious, you can be out there and you can cuss God all you want. Go to hell, God, screw God, do this, whatever you want. You just, the hell with God in church, okay? But if you refuse to salute a military officer, your ass is going to jail. That's it. There's no challenges. You know, people don't understand what that is like. But what that does for you is you can work the system if you know how to work the system. And the process is how it works. And you learn that, then you'll do really good in the military, okay? Me, I had a hard time with it because I couldn't understand. It was a rough time. The Vietnam War started with, I'm going to get to UT in a minute. The Vietnam War started with professional soldiers. And I've researched a whole bunch about Vietnam. They started with professional soldiers, and then by the time I went in, it was right after 2 or 3, 4 years, then it became dregs. All of us were considered as dregs, low-life people.
Before you went in, what did you know about, like, the Vietnam War? What were your, like, preconceptions?
Oh, no, my preconceptions were I'm going to go support, man, I'm going to go get a Medal of Honor. Hell, I can see it already. You know, we were raised at school. In my days, you were raised to hate communism. I mean, you were indoctrinated. We were indoctrinated to the max. We were raised to hate communism, and catching your wife in bed with another man is not as bad as saying you're a communist or you being a communist. Man, that was serious stuff. We went there to fight communism. Okay, we did that. We went there. It was kill, 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 train, 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 and you're just gonna go, you know. And I joined the Marine Corps.
When you joined, who did you tell, and how did they respond?
My cousin. I told my cousin Joe. I hadn't done anything in my whole life by myself. I was always with my cousins, my friends. This time I saw I'm gonna go join the Marine Corps. I didn't even tell my wife, boy. Didn't tell. And I went and told my cousin, I'm going to go to the Marine Corps and stuff. And Joe was about 4 years older than me, 3 years older than me. And he goes down there, and then a week and a half later tells me, Red, Primo, cuz I'm gonna go with you on the buddy program. I'm gonna join. I said no in my head. In my head I was like, oh no, I don't want this dude, man, up there. When I was pissed, I was mad. But I didn't say nothing because he was with me. He was older. And we got into the Marine Corps. We joined July 7th, 1969. We went in the Marine Corps. They picked us up at the airport. We're all stuffed in like sardines in a little bitty bus, 60 of us, in a little 18-foot bus. I mean, they just had us on top of each. We get over there, and then they have some funny-looking yellow prints. And they say, get out there in them yellow footprints. And they start hollering at us, bitches and ladies, and we're like, what the hell's going on? What's going on? So I'm here, and I'm already mad at my cousin Joe, so now I've got to take all this crap. So we get into a place. They cut our hair. They put us in a room. They give us a box. They throw everything in there but your ring if you're married. And, and put an address on it because it's going home. And I'm bald-headed, and they're screaming at us. They're hollering at us just like in the movies. And I'm looking around for my cousin Joe. And I'm, Joe. And the white kids like me, they were all white, just bald-headed, all white. The Mexicans were brown, the blacks were black. And I'm looking at all the brown guys. Where's my cousin Joe? Joe, the primo Joe. And then I finally found him, and I was like, Joe. And I was like, Joe, this is my cousin Joe. And then I was kind of like glad he was there, I was there. And the best part about it is we made the best friends through training, went to Vietnam in different units. I got to work with his unit. We have the same friends. We have the same experiences, so it's a story in itself. It's a great blessing and honor to be connected to my cousin Joe like that. Okay.
To go back a little bit to your childhood, could you tell me about what your home life was like?
Okay, we had no boundaries. We lived. I'm telling you, my father got together with this lady Merced. She paid the rent. She just paid the rent. She couldn't cook good. She didn't cook good. The food there was always beans and tortillas or potatoes and tomato sauce or rice, and never no meat. We never had any meat and stuff like that. But she had that roof there. But our house, we came and went as we pleased. There was no such, and I learned that term of invisible boundaries. Okay, I'm sorry about that. I got away from that. I'm an attention deficit. Invisible boundaries to me, back then I had it. It was an innate thing that I picked up, and it was an incidental thing. And you learn who to stay away from and who to hang out with. In the neighborhood, there's a boundary here. That's a pervert over there, boy. That dude molests girls, or he molests boys and girls. That other one over there, he's a pothead. This one over here is an alcoholic. That woman, she's a witch. That old lady's a witch. You got to stay away from her. You had all these boundaries. And you knew you didn't go to that neighborhood because that neighborhood was so-and-so group. There was always a lot of squabbling going on between young people. And the Salvation Army was very good at this. It was understanding this was our environment, and we all loved each other. We all cared for each other, so there was a big thing there. Palm School, there was a big thing there. We had our park, we had our recreation center, and so these invisible boundaries were there, okay? And you had mean guys, and you knew those guys are mean. You don't want to talk to them. There was guys that I knew that I grew up with that now we're really good friends. They really love me. They respect me.
You maintain those relationships from when you were younger? Oh,
yeah. I still have my baby. Oh, no. My name Felipe goes back to Diaperland. Still have my young friends. My sons grew up like that. They still have their friends. They live in San Antonio now, but they grew up in Austin. My wife knows a lot of people, and they knew her, but she was a little bit on the quiet side back then, not now anymore. But she was, everybody knew each other in Austin. I didn't realize until I came back from Vietnam there were only like 10,500 Mexicans living in Austin, and mostly in East Austin. And so we all knew each other by sight, but we knew that this were from the recreation center. And this is, and we were over about 2 years ago. I was in San Antonio. That's where I live at now. There was a young guy there that showed up with a guy that I know, that I grew up with. And he started, as soon as he saw me, he started telling his wife, UJH, UJH. Ese cabrón is UJH. He's from UJH. See, we were all labeled from Allen, UJH, Austin High, Johnston High, Salvation Army, Pan Am Recreation Center. And the Salvation Army, we all got our shoes there. We were poor as hell. Everybody had the same shoes, boy. Salvation Army shoes, glasses, Salvation Army glasses. I didn't realize, but everybody was poor. I didn't know that. But my friend, I had a friend, Robert Pineda. He used to tell all his friends, him and his brother Ernest, no, ese pinche Colorado Red and his brothers, you think we're poor? That goddamn Red is poor, boy. That dude, because they knew, everybody knows everybody. And everybody knew what my father was like and stuff like that. There was no income there. And they knew what was going on. So everybody, the invisible boundaries were there. You got tight and you got close to people and you bonded very closely. And that flowed into the military, okay? You get to be there with Mexicans because you're not allowed. Entertainment was limited when we were kids. They didn't have places for us to go to. We couldn't afford theater. We were going to go anywhere was to the dance. It cost 50 cents, $1 to go to the dance, and that was hard to get. But there was no, you're going to go to this part of town or that part. You swam in a segregated, everything was segregated normally. But you learn this swimming pool over here is Palm, that's fine, but we can't go to that other one over there where the Mexicans are because they're going to jump you. But me, they didn't jump me because I would show up at these places and I'd start speaking Spanish to them and they were like, hey, watch este cabrón, look at this dude speaking, this white boy, that white boy speaking Spanish, look at him. So I was able to break a lot of barriers. Then I played baseball, so that broke more barriers. And got into sports and stuff like that. And you break barriers. And people were intrigued with me because I was redheaded and freckles, and they could. It's just the fact that the white boy speaking Spanish, and it was really good. I was blessed. Okay, I was very much blessed. And but we did that. But we went into the Marine Corps. Went into training, and I was lucky. I shot expert in the Marine Corps. Okay, I've had honorable work in the Marine Corps. I didn't know that or understand it much. I had honorable work. What I mean by that is I shot expert, and because I shot expert, I was able to go to go to sniper school. Okay, I went to sniper school, became a sniper, and I separated from my group, the people I had gone through training with, boot camp, and my cousin. I got like 2 months behind them because I went to sniper school, and they went home on leave, and I wanted to go to sniper school. It was nothing there. There was nothing big trained about because they were going home for Thanksgiving. And then they had to be back for Christmas and New Year's on base. Me, I said, well, shit, if I go to sniper school, I can go home for Christmas, New Year's, and my birthday. That was a no-brainer. So I did that, and then I caught up with them later and went to the sniper. And then the sniper platoon, I was able to ask, will you send me here? Can you send me there? I've got a friend there. I got a homeboy here. Anytime I heard about somebody from Austin, I'd say, oh, I want to go. Can I go over here and work? Now, my unit, I have a picture of my unit there, and my unit had, at the most, 27, 28, 29. I don't ever remember it being up to 30 people. But you might meet, we only had these people, but we worked in teams of 2. The 2 snipers would go out in a team and work together. I got lucky. I was able to work with this kid named Tom Renneker. And Tom was a Catholic white boy from Minnesota. But Tom was easy to get along with, and we just hit it off right. Because some of these teams, they would work with each other for a month. In 3 weeks, they were on each other's throats. They couldn't get along. They didn't like each other. So then they'd come back. We'd come back to what we called the rear, the compound where our unit was, where our sergeant was at and stuff. And we would change another team member if we wanted to. But me and Tom just happened to stay together about 4 or 5 months. So we got close, okay, and we got to like each other a lot and stuff, and he liked my name. He liked my name. Felipe, come here. He would talk. He would do that Felipe stuff, and so we did that, and we worked together for all that time. But I need to say this, you could go a whole 6 months without seeing anybody else. I could have met you that day when I got there, and then I wouldn't see you till 12 months later because we never worked together. They kept us out in the field. So.
Do you remember the first friend you made when you were training?
Oh, yeah. It's the guy next to you. The guy on the bunks next to you. The ones that you're marching right next to and stuff like that. They put you in order when you're marching. They put you in order by height. Okay? The tall guys first, and then the short guys. And then I'm a short guy, and then, we go so forth like that, okay? So there was 2 or 3 guys I still think about. A couple of them that I still have contact with. And I have a lot of witnesses to what I did, where I was, and stuff like that. I still do, especially with my cousin Joe there, and then they know him, they know me. So we made friends with the guys right next to us. Tamayo was one, and this guy, he went off to making maps. In the Marine Corps, only 3 jobs out of every job. Only 3 people out of every 100 people is going to get a good job. This job you can market it out here in the civilian life. So the rest of us, just give them a rifle, or if you're smart and you know how to type or something, you're going to go into office work. Okay, so that's just. But we all got to know each other. The Mexicans bond real quick. You need to know the Mexicans, they always bond. We had about 18 people. We had about 18 people, 20 people out of 60. They were Mexicans. And so there's some funny stories there, okay? An example, one of them was, I remember we were, when they first got us together, the sergeant said, we had us sitting there in this little Quonset, and he said, what the hell do I have here? He said, where in the hell did I get all these damn Mexicans, all these wetbacks, man? Where did you goddamn Mexicans come from? He said, I want all my Mexicans to stand up. How many? I want to count you. And he's trying to figure out, because some were light, some were dark. And I stand up, and he says, you dumb son of a bitch. You little bitch, I told you Mexicans to stand up. And I looked at him, I said, sir, private's a Mexican, sir. He said, what? God damn, come here, boy. And he walked around me, and he studied me. You a Mexican? Are you sure? Yeah. He said, this is little Tijuana here. He said, this is all little Tijuana. Got all these Mexicans here, So we bonded there. When we were out in the war zone or out just walking to a store and you saw Mexicans, you got to each other and you started talking and bonding, speaking the way we speak here at home. I need to tell people that Mexicans, whether they come from Ohio, I'm not talking about Puerto Ricans, Cubans, I'm talking about Chicanos, Mexicans and Chicanos. If they come from Washington State, LA, they come from Minnesota, wherever they come from, we have more in common with each other than white folks do with each other, or than what blacks have with each other, because we have the same religion, we eat the same food, we listen to the same music, Spanish and English. We all have that Spanish language, or it's a butchered up Spanish language, and we all had the same customs. the same kind of culture. Okay, so that's one thing that we had. And San Antonio is the region where all this region, they send Mexicans to, they send as many people in the Marine Corps as Minnesota, New York, LA, Phoenix, Arizona, anywhere. We send as many Mexicans. But the only difference is in this region, the majority of the Marines that go in the Marine Corps are Mexican. Okay? So you see them everywhere. You talk to them everywhere. You bond with them. And you quickly try, hey, ¿de dónde eres? Where you from? What are you doing? And stuff like that. And so everybody gets to, you meet them and then you're gone. That's it. You meet them and you're gone. That's, and then you meet somebody else. And like me, I would go out to a company and I would work with a company, a platoon, and they would, I would get there and the first thing I would look at was Mexicans. Now, what my job allowed me to, what I learned later on was in the Marine Corps, okay, I started seeing things in the Marine Corps that I really didn't understand, but I learned them after later on in college, or I learned labels and ways to study things and look at things. And what I was seeing is I could go, and I know there's 16 Mexicans in this company, 5 over here, 6 over there at this other company, because I'm working with different people all the time. I know there's like 12 potheads over here. There's 10 druggies over here, 15 druggies over here, and 13 druggies over here, 25 druggies over here in this other company. And the other people, the druggies in that company, they didn't realize. All they saw was, well, the majority of them are non-druggies. But what I'm seeing, I'll see a bunch here, a bunch there, a bunch, and I see an epidemic. I learned that word later on as I got older. This is a damn epidemic now. And people say, no, they weren't that many. Shit, if they weren't, I was there. I saw them. I know exactly what was going on over there with everybody. There's a lot of drugs in Vietnam. A lot of drugs, a lot of racist stuff, a lot of prejudiced people. And we had riots between the Mexicans and the blacks and the Mexicans. We had, everything was, these were the lines. That was it. Out in the field, it was a little bit safer, but not when you were in the rear compounds.
Did witnessing that and like the sort of the race relations like in Vietnam within like the U.S. troops, did that change your opinion on some of like the race relations back home in the U.S., particularly with Black Americans?
Yeah, it did. When I went to the service, we all were kind of like, we were kind of like, we didn't deal much with blacks and we didn't deal much with Mexicans, but the whites were. You could tell the racist stuff that was going on between whites and people of color and stuff like that. But in Vietnam, it became a different thing. You had the blacks that were very aggressive. And when they were in the compounds and there were a bunch of them together, they would kind of bully and they would go on vigilante. And if they found people out there, they'd beat the hell out of them and stuff like that on the compound. And there was a lot of racial issues, and people don't realize that. A lot of drugs, a lot of racial. And I didn't do pot because I didn't like it. I came out of a family where people smoked pot. My dad, my uncles, my cousins, older cousins and stuff like that, but I didn't like it. And most of us, we just wanted beer, we would drink anything with alcohol. But I knew about that drug life, and I knew we had a lot of experience already, streetwise experience. So when we got there, if you didn't know that and you had been an innocent person, then this would be a mind-blowing thing for you. What you want to see is you want to see the movie Platoon. The movie Platoon's a great movie. It's about the truest thing and the closest you can get to Vietnam. Now, they have some characters in there, and they had to throw a whole bunch of... They couldn't get every character in there, but so they had one character in there, and they threw a bunch of bad behavior into him to make him do. But you see the truth there. You see where the druggies, the people smoking pot, are very more empathetic than the people that are drinkers. That are, they don't do drugs and they're whatever. There's a lot of difference in the way they treated each other and stuff like that.
Can you break down some of the aspects of like the training process?
Oh, the training as far as, okay, you go into boot camp, and then in boot camp they break you down, then they train you to be obedient and stuff like that. Then you go through your training, okay? And everything is yes sir, no sir, and you do what you're told. You don't think, you don't do anything. So you get trained. You go through a lot of combat training. And a lot of they're motivating you up and it's kill, kill, kill. And what people need to understand is that they don't, the military doesn't teach you that it's okay to kill, okay? It doesn't teach you that it's okay to kill. What the military does, it trains you to try to stay alive. It trains you to use those weapons, okay? These weapons that we see out here in society, they're human killing machines. They're not, they weren't made, they were made, in war we have rules. In war, every projectile, every bullet has a copper coat on it. And it's not made, people think that war is about killing people. War is not about killing people. War is about, like in my job, you want to wound somebody. He's going to die sooner or later. But you want to wound him because that's the object of war. Okay? I was a long shooter. I wasn't like, we're going to shoot here real close. Mine, I was a long shooter. They needed somebody, you saw somebody way out there, then they'd call us up. I had a rifle that had 3 bullets in it. That was it. 3 bullets, and that was it. I said, and you use that, you use them, you depend on everybody to keep you alive and to protect you, okay? War is to wound people because when you kill people, it only takes one person to take care of 20, 30, 100 bodies, dead bodies. But when you wound somebody, guess what happens? It takes 4 to 8 people to take care of that wounded person. And if you can get 4 to 8 people looking at somebody that's wounded, and then they're kind of like thinking in their head, "Ooh, this is scary. I might be next." You want to demoralize them. Okay, you want to do. That's what war is about. My job wasn't. It's not like American Sniper. I saw that because the friends kept telling me, "Go see this movie. Go see." I went to go see American. That is 85, 90% Hollywood and 10% true. What that sniper was doing, there's no way that he would have left his location. They would have, his own people would have shot him because he was there to protect people that were going into buildings. And that's not the way it happens. Talking on the phone every day to your wife, I don't know, maybe it's like that in their war. In our war, it wasn't like that. We didn't have cell phones or any of that like that. But when you're there to protect somebody, like my job was to protect people, to keep an eye on them. If they're going into villages or they're doing something and they tell me, "You stay back here and you watch it," that's my job, is to protect them, okay?
Was having that role of like protecting your like fellow soldiers, was that like, can you describe the pressure that came with that and how you dealt with it?
Oh no, it's a good pressure. It's, the only time it's scary, it's a good pressure. When you know that everybody respects you, everybody knows that what you're doing. I used to shoot in the afternoon. I used to love to shoot at dusk because I would get tracer rounds. These rounds, when you shot them, you could see the red line. And we just had to ask, we want to tune up. We want to go tune up. We want to see what the weather's doing, see what the humidity's doing, or whatever. There's an art to shooting. There's an art. It's not easy. You want to see a good movie on shooters? Man, that one movie, I never see war movies. I went to American Sniper because they told me, and then I said, that doesn't happen. You see the guy at the end, he's taking a shot, and the wind is blowing, and they're a mile away, and everything. You ain't going to make that shot, but in the movie it looks good, but it's not going to happen. Now, you want to see something, the one thing that I did want to see, that I didn't understand, I was like, what? How did they do that? What is Captain Phillips? You see these guys when they got hijacked by some Somalians? Oh man, I had to find out, research, and do how in the hell did they shoot these people inside of a container? You can't even see who's in there, what's in there. How did they do that? What were the snipers doing and stuff like that? Man, you go see that movie and then you research and you see what the snipers did, then that's shooting and that's sniping. That is quality skill work. That was real. Captain Phillips is doing that platoon, realistic. Now, we only shot when they told us to, but then they would drop us off a lot. Our job was to gather information. You want information. You want people that you go on a patrol. You go in with a group of people, and then you kind of like you stop to take a break or something, and you drop off, and they keep going. It's like here, we're at the University of Texas. It's like you're going to go down to the state capitol. You drop me off over here on 18th Street or at Waller Creek and stuff, and I'm going to see who's coming to Waller Creek. What's going on at Waller Creek? Are the people working? What are they doing? Do we have people? Are they doing something funny, Or you want information. What are people doing? Where do they step? Where do they walk? Because you come back and say, you know what? I don't want you, Lord. You tell your troops they don't walk over here. If you're going into this village, you walk on that side of the street or something, but not this side, because they're staying away from that. You give them information. You want information. Did you see anybody? You're out there by yourself with another person, and you can see some enemy going by, a block away or something. You're not going to shoot at them. Hell no. You don't have a radio. You got a bullet. You got one rifle that shoots automatic, and then you have another one where you got 3 bullets in it. Yeah, you got to be. You're not gonna let your location. You don't want them to know where you're located. You don't even want them to know that you're there. Then you come back with the information and you give them the information. And when you walk to a compound, every time you go to a company, they look at you coming in, and there's a lot of pride in it. They see us coming in with this equipment, these rifles, special rifles, and all this stuff. They think you're coming from Da Nang or somewhere, some big company, and they don't realize you're part of their division. And so that's the way it was. You do long shots. You're doing long shots, and you do what you're supposed to do.
What was your reaction when you found out you were going to be deployed to Vietnam?
Oh, shit, I was excited. That's what I wanted. We were excited. Let me tell you about this. You had 3 types of soldiers when I was in Vietnam, okay? Oh, when I was in the military, okay? People don't realize that. You had the volunteers, like myself, my cousin Joe, a lot of other people. 1/3 of the troops were volunteers. They wanted to go. A lot of them were dropouts like me and my cousin Joe, okay? 1/3 were volunteers. Another 1/3 were draftees. They didn't want to go. They didn't want to be there. Okay? They didn't want to fight. They didn't want to. We had all sorts of people joining in Vietnam. Okay, we had those people. Then I'll come back and tell you more about that. You had these draftees. They didn't want to fight, and they were held. Well, I was drafted in this and that, and 50% of them will maybe shape up and ship out and do something good, and the other wouldn't. And then you had the last 1/3. The last 1/3 were felons, people that had gone. They were felons. They had people raped people. They had robbed people. They had shot people. They had done something wrong, and when they needed bodies. So they were given the choice. You want to go to Vietnam, you want to go to the military, the army, or you want to go to prison? And what do you think they chose? Let's go to prison. I have 2 or 3, 4 friends like that did that. They chose to do that. And years later, they changed the policy in the military. When my son was there, right about my son's time, where they created a volunteer-only military. And people said, y'all are stupid, it ain't going to work like that. You're going to need volunteers and stuff. But it was the best thing they ever did for the military. They had all the volunteers because what was happening back then, you were forcing people to go to war, undisciplined, and it was chaotic. It was chaos. And that's what caused a lot of the racial issues and stuff like that, and the druggy issues and stuff like that, because of the people were undisciplined. They weren't. They didn't want to be there. They didn't care to be there. They were already wild, boy. They were already troublemakers before they ever went in the military. Where you had people like myself and my cousin Joe. We were just good kids. We wanted to serve our country. We weren't we weren't wife beaters or beating our girlfriends up or anything like that, or robbing people or anything before we went to, so you had a mixture, a real weird mixture there. And they had to do a lot of changes.
You said that you didn't tell everyone at first when you enlisted, but when your family, your brothers, your wife found out you were going to Vietnam, what was their reaction?
Well, it didn't make a difference, because some of them, like my wife, she didn't know till a few weeks later, and stuff like that. And it was it caused a lot of marital problems while I was in Vietnam and being in the service and stuff. Okay, and it made me real suicidal. I had some serious issues I was dealing with, and I was always taking chances I had no business taking, dangerous chances, and that created a lot of PTSD and stuff like that. And then, but I was still cocky. I was still kind of crazy. And there's a difference between still being mentally ill and crazy. You got crazy, a lot of crazy people. They do crazy things. Everything was good, or I was drinking a lot. I was smoking 3 to 4 packs of cigarettes a day. When I got back, I was drinking, all the time, just drinking. I didn't realize till years and years later that I was self-medicating. I didn't know that. I realized I was self-medicating, and I learned that after UT. I've been to Vietnam 3 times. I've been to Vietnam as a soldier one time, and then 25 years later, that was in 1970 in Vietnam, 69, 70. And then in 1995, I was really a basket case, a serious basket case. I was all screwed up. I had, I was sick. Well, I was really, really sick. And I was now going to school here at the University of Texas. I came to school at the University of Texas, but in 1995, I had serious breakdowns. I left my family, I left my wife, I left my kids, I left my relatives, my friends. I moved out of town. I was sick, boy. I was teaching in New Braunfels, Texas, and I went there to do specific types of teaching, which was real good. I learned a lot about Mexicans in the education system. But I went there, and I would barely make it to work. Okay, I would get off of work in the afternoon. I was teaching in middle school, and I would go home, barely make it to the house. I was drained. I'd lay down and look at some TV or turn the TV on, and I'd go to sleep, and I was gone. I was screwed up, all screwed up. Then I'd barely get enough energy for the next day and go back to work. And I'd come back, and I did over and over. That's the way it was. I was just every day, just barely making it. And I knew that I was sick. I knew I needed some help, but I wasn't going to go to the VA. I said, the government screwed me up. That's why I had that in my mind. They screwed me up. I'm not going to go. Screw them. Hell, to hell with them, man. I'll sit here and rot before I go and get help from the government. They screwed me up. Well, I started going to the recruiter's office in the Marine Corps, and there's a magazine. It's called the Leatherneck Magazine, and you get that leatherneck, and that's us Marines. We're tough. We're leathernecks. We're dogs. Hell, we're everything. They had in the back of the magazine. There weren't computers in those days. They had a roll call thing, and that's where they would list reunions, or so-and-so's looking for so-and-so, or looking for... So I would go in to get these magazines and look at the back to see if I could see anybody that I knew, that I want to talk to somebody that I care about. Okay? And I want to see this and I want to do that. So one day I was there and I was looking at this magazine and I open up the magazine like this and I look at it and I see a map of Vietnam. And then right there in the middle of that map, I see it says Anwa. I said, I'm going. This was February, 1995 of February. I said, I'm going to Vietnam. The hell with it. I don't know what else to do. I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do, who to talk to. I went one time to Sam's down the street here on William Canyon, and 35 Sam's was there. They moved to another spot now. And I'm walking out of the store. I went down there. I was teaching already. I bought some pickles. And I'm walking out of the store, and this lady says, Red, Felipe. Yes, I'm talking to her from my childhood. She said, oh, yeah. And Desert Storm was on, okay? And she's the one that told me, oh, you need to go get help. My husband got some good help. Go call this counselor. And took me a long time before I called that counselor because I was going through all of this other stuff. And what had happened was that I came to UT. I'm going to back up. I'm going to be jumping back and forth. I was at UT, cocky as hell. I was here at UT, and I'm going to go to school here, and I'm going to school. And this guy, let me show you this first. I need to show people these things. Okay. I'm going to UT. I was cocky, gung-ho, Marine. I want to do this, I want to do that. And I would wear these coats here. Summer, winter, whatever. Boy, it didn't have to. It could be hot. And I wore this booger, this windbreaker. And it says, I would walk up and down the drag here, by the Union, right there where people would walk. And there's a lot of traffic there by the post office and stuff. And everybody, and it says, go to hell, demonstrators. And it sees the big-ass bad soldier beating this Vietnamese. Okay? Go to hell, demonstrators. And for those, this is my mentality, for those who fought for its freedom has tasted the what? What does it say? I can't read it upside down.
For those who fought for it, freedom has a taste the protected will never know.
That's right. You'll never know. And I'm going to tell you what. See, and I wore this count, the Red Horse, Scout Sniper. There's my little Vietnamese gook in there, you know. So I'm wearing these and I'm walking down, so you can imagine what kind of people stop you. What are you know, it's a big time with the protesters. Why are you wearing that? Why do you do? Well, hell, 'cause I fought for your freedom. I did this, I did that. Well, I got into a lot of discussions. Never a fight, physical fight, but into some aggressive, no, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what, I know, I've been there, I saved you, hell. And I did this and I did this for America. And they would talk to me. And these mother rippers, they got worse. They're having their protest marches, they're protesting, they're doing this. They don't like us as it is. We came to a place where nobody cared for veterans those days. Nobody. So I'm here coming to school, and these people, slowly but surely, they're beating me with the truth. They're beating me. And you got to remember, I'm born and raised in this town. I've worshipped this tower that we have. After football games, hell, I used to go to football games, and I didn't even know they didn't have any black and Mexican players. It was all white players. I never knew that. It's just Longhorns. We're Longhorns. We're Longhorns. And plus, I went to junior high there. I used to go see the B teams and the Longhorns. And then you'd see that. I knew that sign was up there, but I really started reading it was, the truth shall set ye free. I started going to AA, to Alcoholic Anonymous. And it was one of the things that they preached there in AA is you got to deal with the truth. Be fearless. Be fearless, deal with the truth. Well, I ain't gonna be truth. I know what the truth was. I was defending this country, shit, and then I'm there. Shit, I'm there, and I'm arguing with these people, and they're slowly beating me, and they're making me more crazy. Now they're making me emotionally crazy and mentally crazy. I'd go to football games. My brother was well known, Tony. He used to sell Cokes and sodas at the game, so he would get me in the game. And I'd be sitting there in the stands. I'll tell you how crazy I was. 1 minute, I was anti-Vietnam. The next minute, I was anti-protesters, and I didn't know where I was going, left or right. And they beat my ass with the truth. It still hurts. And slowly but surely, everything I was touching, the newspaper from the college, the newspaper from the American Statesman, books, literature, anything you're reading, everything's telling you what's going on in Vietnam. And then one day, and I don't like it. I don't like what they're saying because they don't know what they're talking about. I've been to Vietnam. I know what we did. Yeah, damn right I know what we did, hell. So I see this going on. And one day I'm in my literature, English literature class. I got a TA named Jeff Jones. I knew who he was. They would talk about it in class. We know this dude was the president, student body president at the University of Texas. He was one of the main dudes ramrodding the protest marches and the protesters and stuff. We're in that class, and I'm walking around with my short sleeve, and I got all kinds of jeans, cut up jeans and stuff, and my hair growing a little bit. And he comes in the class one day, and he says, all right, everybody, you got a day off. Today, everybody gets a free day. We're going to go celebrate the victory for the North Vietnamese Army. For the Vietnam has won the war. And I'm like, what? Vietnam is what? What's he saying? What the fuck's this man saying, man? He said he going to celebrate with the enemy, for the enemy. I'm in here. I'm a veteran. I didn't say shit to him. He was my TA and stuff. And plus, he scared me. He said it was so much authority, so much pride. I hated him for years. For years, I hated this dude. This bastard would attack me in my dreams and my nightmares. We're going to have this war. I went home, and I started looking at the news. It was horrible. They were starting to show what we were doing in Vietnam. The bad things we did, what happened and why and how we... And I'm like, no, we didn't do that. No, we didn't do that. And so they kicked my ass here at this place. I had no choice. I had to do some serious inventories. I had to decide what was going on in Vietnam. What was happening? What was going on? What did we do? And I started thinking about things that happened in Nam. Okay? And I saw things doing this. I remember one time when I was teaching 6th grade, I was reading a social studies book, world history book. And I started reading, and I'm doing my lesson plans. It's on a Friday. And they start talking about like Egypt and all of this. And then if you listen to the to the Bible and all that, and you start reading about how they used to save their grain and all that in big urns, big place where the insects didn't get to them and stuff. And I started crying. I couldn't stop. I cried for about an hour and a half. I was like, oh no, God, no, don't do this, no. I was seeing reality. We destroyed so much food, and it was plain food like rice, stuff like that. They're vegetables, they're squash, and the urns. We would get these urns. We would find these urns or these big containers in the ground where they would store it. And it's for the Vietnam. It's for the enemies. Throw grenades in it, blow it up, burn it up. And this was their whole food for that year. This was their food. And I grew up hungry. I grew up without food, and I cried and I cried. I'll never forget what that did to me. And I remember the places that people burned. I never burned houses. I never did bad stuff. I didn't, but I was real empathetic, but a lot of people weren't. But we did burn their houses down, and they were made out of grass. It was simple. That was it. It was horrible, boy. And all that stuff. So all these truths started coming. And then I broke down. So in 1995, I'm working, and I said, going to be. I went back to Vietnam. I went back to the areas that I served in. And I saw the greatest people, nicest people, very poor people. We left them with nothing. And we supported a government that all the people in Vietnam, all of them, all they wanted was Vietnam run by Vietnamese. That's all they wanted, their freedom. Just like Americans wanted their freedom. Now, in 1975, when I was there, in 1995, I found out that in 1975, that was a point where they called it in their history, before 75 and after 75. Before 75 was before liberation, they name it. And after 1975 is after liberation, after acquiring liberation. So I'm talking to these people and I'm visiting this. I go in 1995. I'm sick. I cried all the way up there. I cried all the way back home. And I went to all these places. I did the tourist thing, but I also did research, a lot of research. The people were poor as hell. They were poor. All we tried to do is, when they were controlled for 50 years, they were controlled by the French. And the French had great homes, took all the food, and these people were barely surviving on rice and stuff. They had no water. And what I want to say is this about Vietnam. 3 things that we had done. I've been there, and I went back again in 2017 with my wife because I made a mistake by not having her. You need to have somebody close to you when you go back to Vietnam to visit, if you were in combat and stuff. Well, what the hell was I losing my train of thought? Shit. Oh hell, I'm losing my train of thought. I went there, I met the nicest people, and you start talking to them, and they start asking one question they always want to know after they speak to you 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. They'll say, oh, well, first when they see you, oh, they fall in love with you. You're in a place, you're in a store, walking down the street, and somebody, oh, this is an American. He was here in the war and stuff. And they come, they want to talk to you. Oh, you're number one, you're very good. They're showering me with love and affection and kindness. But the conversation always came to, why did y'all attack us? We did nothing to y'all. We're a small country, very small country. We didn't attack anybody. Oh, no. Y'all attacked at the Tonkin Bay. Y'all did this, y'all did. And then I told them, then it was a domino effect. You explained to them, that's why we attacked them. Well, it comes out later, the Tonkin Bay, we shot at them first. We started the war. We lied. We did this. We did this. We kept these people from... And what I'm seeing and what I was being told at college, and these people that I was having these discussions with or arguments with, they were killing me with this truth, man. And then when I got to Vietnam, I was seeing what they were telling me was true. This is true. How did we do this? We killed 1 million people easy. And we lost people, yeah. And we even lost a lot of our own people. Why? Because the government was damn lying to us. The government lied to us. The leadership was all screwed up. Everybody. People don't realize. I was there, one of the biggest surprises I had there in Vietnam. I used a little trick question. When I talk to veterans, I have to be real careful because I've had the experiences that they haven't had. They're still back there in the war. And I found I found out about one special word that I grew up with in my life, And I'm there. I learned this word. A guy prepared me. A Vietnamese man prepared me. He gave me here in Austin. He anyway. That's another story. But when I'm talking to veterans, sometimes I'll get kind of I need information, and I'll just see where they're at, how they think, what they still think about the war and stuff like that in Vietnam. And I'll ask, oh yeah, what did you do? Where did you work? And all this other stuff. And then I would say something simple like, oh man, oh yeah, this and that. And how do you say that you want to lay somebody, you want to screw somebody? How are the cuss words? You could pull out them Vietnamese cuss words, they know them. They know how to ask a kid, can I screw your mother? Get a boom boom mama son, eh? Boom boom. In other words, can I get, that's kind of behavior that you would see there. And even if you weren't going to screw the mother, but you would say that, And then the other one was, can I screw your sister? Boom boom, baby son, the female. Yeah, you got baby son, sister. And that's the way soldiers would talk to these guys out there in the bush, in the stuff. Not all of them, just enough of them to make you realize later on, years later, oh my God, what do we do? You walk through the crops, they're growing crops, and people just stepping on their watermelons and whatever, food they have, tearing up their vegetables and stuff like that. So you see all of this, and it doesn't affect you because you're dealing with an it. You're not dealing with a thou, being a human person. So you're doing this, but then you'll ask them, did you ever learn how to say please or thank you in Vietnamese? No, I never learned how to please. I was in Vietnam. I got floored. I learned real quickly how to say thank you. I was raised with, I was sitting at the holiday house. That was the main word. I love that word. Thank you and stuff like that. Can I help you? And you know what? Thank you is a very simple, come on. Come on. Come on. It's like, come on. That's all it is. It was so simple. But the leadership we had, they didn't prepare us like that. They made a culture of kill, 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 kill. And you do this and you do that. So I get over there and I find out that these mother rippers at UT, but just for correct, them people that I was arguing with, I would sit at the football game and they would start the national anthem. And sometimes I was so out of it. From one minute to the next, I changed my behavior for one thing or the other, my belief. And I would sit there, and people would stand up and start singing. And I would say, fuck the national anthem, fuck the flag, fuck y'all. And they would be looking at me, but I was stupidly sick. I didn't care if I got my butt kicked. And they just ignored me. And I would do stuff like that. Okay? And I was so angry because I was finding out the truth. And then on the other hand, I was like, gun-ho, yeah, the hell with everybody. We're gonna, we're trained killers and shit like this, I'm a Marine, hell. And that, when I came back that first trip in 1995, it was slowly, but it changed. I started changing. And the crying became a soothing crying. Not an anger and hate and help me, God, and stuff like that. The hell with God. I hated everybody. My friend from Vietnam, Tom Reniker, the one that was my partner, from good Catholic. He left later on when we were in 1997. I called him. We had computers then. I found him and we started visiting again on the phone. He had stopped going to church. And he started like, Red, there ain't no God. There ain't no way. There's no way a God would allow this to happen, what we did there. He like me, and we both became teachers. I'm amazed. It's a small world. I was a dropout. And as we got older, I got closer to God, and he got farther away from God, and he just had a hard time with what we did in Vietnam. It wasn't honorable. And I know that. We had conversation. It wasn't an honorable thing. What we did was, people were so poor when I went in 95. So damn poor. Even if they had money, they couldn't afford medicine. Okay? 3 things that we had done. 3 things. We would still be there today. Today, with open arms, they would love us. They still love us. No matter what. It's a different population. It's amazing how they still. One, if we had given them water. If we had given them pure, clean water. We had the technology. They were bringing us drinking potable water, washing our face with it and stuff, because they'd bring to us what they call buffaloes, way out there in the middle of nowhere. It's a big old tank with wheels on it, and then they would call it a water buffalo. So they'd bring that to us. We had water. They could have done that for the Vietnamese. They didn't do that. They were drinking well water. They were drinking river water. All kind of sicknesses and stuff like that, okay? We would contaminate some, I don't even want to go there, on their water system, on their water that they would. But then, when I was back in 2008, I saw that it broke my heart. This was in 2018 when I took my wife, because I didn't see those water purification little plants that they were building, about the size of, half the size of this room right in here. They were making water, clean water. Had signs all over the place. Don't drink river water. Don't drink well water. Drink pure water, because you're going to, stay healthy and do this and do that. We had given them water. We didn't give it to them. We could have. We didn't have to spend billions and billions and trillions of dollars on bombs and bullets and stuff. If we had just given them water, they wouldn't have been communists. Okay? They went to the communists because the communists promised to do something for them and gave them ammo, gave them bullets, gave them bombs and everything to protect themselves. Okay? When the war was over, it wasn't just that we beat the Americans. They were proud of that. It was, we survived, we beat the Americans, we beat the Chinese, we beat the Japanese. They've been fighting for freedom for 300 years. So they knew what they were fighting for, freedom. When you start talking to these people, and you're there, I started picking it up in 95 and then in 2008, and you're talking to these people and you're asking them, or you're talking to them about communism and all of this, and you're talking about, oh man, there's a difference between North Vietnam and South Vietnam. When you're talking to the North Vietnamese, yeah, communism's super great. It's been here forever, and it's all, and it's a good communist thing. That's different than what people think it is. It's not all that bad. They go into health. They do a lot of other stuff, and they've installed electricity. They've done a lot of stuff, education and stuff like that in Vietnam. But in the southern part of Vietnam, when you're talking to people and you say, yeah, well, we're doing the domino effect because the communists and stuff like that, they were going to take over, and the presidents didn't want to lose this part of the world to communism, to China, and to Russia. And these people will tell you, communists, I ain't no damn communist. I ain't, not me. I'm a freedom fighter. Yeah, but you had the communist. Oh, yeah, they gave me a rifle. They gave me bullets. They said, yeah, I'm fighting for my freedom. I'm a freedom fighter. I ain't no damn communist. They'll tell you quick, and you're like, but you're communist. No, I'm not no damn communist. The communists is up north. They're up north. That's the communists. We're freedom fighters over here. They were the people that lived in the southern part of Vietnam that were fighting us. Okay? We didn't win them over because we kept killing their damn families and stuff and their friends, We didn't give them water. Okay? That's bad. We didn't give them medical care and medicine. They didn't have any. You go up there now and you see clinics everywhere now. You see in 2018, they didn't have it in 1995. 2018, they have pharmacies everywhere. They have medical. They have clinics. It's not I'm not going to say it's the greatest, dental work and stuff, but they are improving that country. They're working their asses off. They're educated. You get a classroom over there. I stopped and I saw colleges. I went into colleges, high schools, elementary schools. I visited everything. I was trying to learn, and I learned a whole bunch. But when I would go on a campus, everything would stop. If I went into a college campus, the college, hey, and they'd be bringing me into the room, and they wanted to talk. They wanted to know about who I was, what, in the schools and stuff like that. I have pictures, you know. And I would talk to the people and ask them about these things, you know, and stuff. So if we had given them water, medical facilities and medicine, because they didn't have it, we left them poor as hell. I've got pictures of kids and people that were mixed race kids that were left behind, that they have a lot of stories about them, you know, about the Eurasian people. Okay, so water, medicine, and medical facilities. We could have done it for a penny to the dollar of all that money we spend on ammo and stuff. And the last one was schools. You go into their schools, I was amazed. No air conditioning. No air conditioning at all. Some schools had a ceiling fan room, 60 students. 60 students in the classroom. Big window, no screen on it and stuff like that. No air conditioning. No discipline problems. Not one discipline problem. None of this, well, they're attention deficit or they're this and that or they don't listen, they don't do. None of that. Everybody is astute. In the whole country, everybody wears a uniform. Blue pants and a white shirt. The girls get to wear the blue pants or a blue skirt and the white shirt. The whole country. The whole country is based on improve. You're fighting for your country, you're fighting for your family, and you have to learn. This is the way. Education is the way out. It's like in every, and you see this. You have clowns in class, but they're not disruptive. They're not trying to destroy the thing, you know. And you see all this stuff. I took my wife to one of the schools that I went to. Oh, they fell in love with my wife. My wife's a regular Mexican, you know, brown colored, you know, black hair, brown skin. They, number one, same, Vietnam. You're same, just like Vietnamese. They stopped talking to me, and it was a school I went to, and I went there and I showed them my pictures from 1995, and they were, they brought an old teacher that was still there. The principal had gone away. Two of the people that were there teaching also were in these pictures. They were English teachers now. The teacher that they had there the first time was, she could speak and hello, how are you? And that's it, basically little words. But their second language is English. Okay, their first language is Vietnamese. And I went into the war zone there where I was at, and everybody, they love Americans, and they still want to know, why did we attack them? And we have such a short memory. Now, what did we do over there? We went up there and attacked those other countries in the Middle East, and all in the name of money. Everybody doesn't understand it's money. So there's a lot of stuff there that here at UT, them bastards kicked my ass. Jeff Jones, yeah, I hated him for years. And I've had to get to a point to where I've had to say, you know what? He was right. I still don't want to talk to him, but he was right. He was right. His cause was right. If you ever get to see Ken Burns, a lot of veterans don't like Ken Burns' documentary about Vietnam, because he doesn't just show the American soldiers. He shows their part. It's only so much time. He shows the other vital parts to this conflict, which were the protesters. They had a lot to do with it, and you have to acknowledge that. And then you had the Vietnamese enemy, and it's real awesome. If you're a worldly person, you're paying attention to all of it. Okay, I'm a veteran. I'm proud. I'm patriotic as hell, but I'm not stupid anymore. You know? Unless we're going to go to war, let's go to a good war where we're not putting our children like they have this other time in the Middle East, where we're just putting them in there to get slaughtered. And then we have, like now, we have a president. He didn't go when I was there. Later on, they interviewed, oh, he couldn't go. He had spurs on his foot. Trompas, I call them trompas, big mouth. He had spurs. And then now, the other day, I see him, he's, oh, we're going to help Putin. Putin is going to be, we're going to go with the communists. And I'm like, man, what? This, he's going against the democracy people to go with. Now, what the hell's going on? When do we do the right thing? The truth. When do we stick to truth? When do we stick to truth? Not because it benefits you or but because it's the truth. When do we get like Red Garcia that says, okay, I'll throw the hat in, that was wrong, and I'll never do it again. And I'm going to treat it the way the government treats me with my Agent Orange. Yes, we're sorry, we caused that, but we're going to take care of you and try to make you comfortable until the day you die. We don't know how much longer you're going to have, but we're going to be here for you. Medical. Red Garcia now says, let's do truth. Let's do truth. Because the right thing now, they've already twisted around, and the right thing is to go be with Putin, to go with, and Trump says it's okay to shoot people. It's okay to do this. No, let's stick to the truth. The truth is we all have the right to take care of each other. We don't have to love each other. I go to state capitals. I went to state capital in Vermont. They're in Montpelier. They have a state capitol there. And it was right after they gave the rights to the gays, the gay people. You know, yeah, you got your right. And you're listening to this video, they're talking in this video, and they're saying, oh, yeah. As soon as Congress was doing this and that about gay people getting married or doing whatever, and they're thinking, yeah, we gave them their rights. Now, it might be 100 years before everybody in the community starts accepting their rights, you know, but for now, the government is. We've done our part. Now, it's up to the people that like the gays or respect them or tell them to go kiss their asses or whatever. We did our, you know. And that's all we need to do, you know. Just let people have their freedom to be right, you know. Let them to be. If they want to be MAGA, that's fine. But you don't have the right to come shoot me. You don't have the right to just tell me that your way is the only way. I did that in church.
Can we circle back to Vietnam? And will you tell me your first impression? So you've said you've been there multiple times. What are the first things you notice usually? Like, if you could describe it, like what it looks like, what it feels like. And then also if you could tell me a little bit about the atmosphere on base.
The what?
The atmosphere on the base.
On the military base or what?
Yes, if you go all the way back.
Oh, yeah. The atmosphere on the base was, like I said, you know, it was always, everything is, you're segregated in the base. You're enlisted, you only are able to go eat at this place, this type of this cafeteria. You can go to this club over here, enlisted club. And after your staff NCO, then you go to this kind of club and you eat at this kind of cafeteria. You're an officer, you do it. Everything is segregated. Everything. Okay? The Marine Corps, when I was there were no, I never saw one female captain. And that was, I went to dispersion. I went to the to one of the offices way up at the main site. But they keep the women somewhere locked up over there somewhere, you know. The Marine Corps is like that. They work in offices or whatever, I don't know where. Never saw one. The Air Force, I was in the Air Force Reserves because I wanted to take a picture with my son. My son joined the Air Force, and I was still young enough to go in the military. I was 16 when my son was born and already running around. In the Air Force, I worked at Wilford Hall in the hospital. I'm at a different level now. I'm still enlisted, but I went to a school to learn how to work and repair and set up medical equipment. So I'm working at the biggest Air Force hospital in the world, which is in San Antonio. I'm still living in Austin, but I'm over there. And you see females, a lot of females, and they have a lot of military officers. And you're working with them. You go in the elevator, you're with females. You're going down the hall, there's females in the women. You're saluting the female officer, pregnant as hell with her tummy out there, boy, and you're saluting this. Oh, shit, this is different. The difference between those two groups is one has a different mission than the other one, okay? Marine Corps, just shut up and do what you're told. In the Air Force, you better use your brain. You better use your head, okay? And use your common sense with your head. In the Marine Corps, we hide the women over there. In the Air Force, the women are mixed with the men. And if you're cleaning a commodes, the women are there cleaning commodes. If you're cutting grass, they're cutting grass. If a truck comes in and you got to load some stuff in that truck, it's common sense that you're stronger than the woman. So use your head. Everybody work like a team and we'll do this. And if your sergeant is a female, she tells you to jump, you better jump. You better do it. Tells you to go do this, you better jump. That's it. We don't care who it is. There's going to be a leader, and if it's a female, it's a female. Everybody here uses their brain. The Marine Corps is not like that, okay? And you're all segregated. In the military, you're not mixed in.
What was your communication like back home? Like, did you send letters or receive care
Yes.
packages? Can you tell me a little about that?
Yes, I wrote letters all the time. Vietnam, we got to send letters free. They were all free. All the letters were free. You just mail on. I used to write the same letter 10 times. Same letter. I don't care if I was describing this pair of glasses or describing this little thing right here for my hair, if I put my hair back or whatever. I'd describe a little roach, boy, if I was not a roach. There were no roaches. I didn't see no roaches over there. But I would gnat, an insect, I would, even if it was describing, say the same damn letter 10 times, and I'd send it away. I might get one letter back, one answer, okay? I had a Mexican newspaper coming that was printed here in Austin. That was great. The young lady sent that to me. I was glad to get those. And that also talked about Vietnam. That talked about the wrong stuff, and it talked about, like, the school that my cousins went to. They still only had 17 Mexicans. McCallum High School here, back then in '70. They still had that school, only had 17 Mexicans in the whole school and no blacks, in those days. She told you how segregated things were and stuff. I understand it now. I didn't understand it back then. But everything's segregated. That's where I'm in the middle. It's segregated, okay? Everything is segregated. Everything is, it's up. It's just like being in a household. The father, and it goes down the pecking order. And that's the way it works, We were there. There's a thing that people don't realize. Like me now, I see, all the pain that I lived with from the wrong. I came back. I trained recruits when I came back. I had honorable work. I was a sniper in Vietnam, and then I trained recruits. One of the best things the military wants is for all, not the military, the Marine Corps. They want everybody qualifies in the Marine Corps to be a sharpshooter. They can shoot. And that's the one thing and I trained recruits for a year and a half. That's what I did. I trained them. I was good at what I did because I just taught them what I was taught. I did what I was taught. And it's hard to shoot. It's hard to shoot. Expert. A lot of people, you'll hear a lot of people like, I was a sniper over there and I did this. They're all lying. They're all full of shit. People talk about they did this, they did that. Everybody is. You catch them lying and you just either let them have their parade or you piss all over it, and And I've learned you don't lie. I got witnesses. Everything I tell you, I've got a witness for it. I'm getting lost in this train of thought, hell.
It's okay. I was going to ask how often you thought about home and
Every day, every minute.
what
Every minute you think about home. Every day is called the world. You're in Vietnam, and you call America's called the world. When we were going there, on the way to Vietnam, you're leaving the world. When you're coming back, you came back to the world. Okay? Everything was in the world. Everything you did. They played music. They have a movie that talks about that, Good Morning Vietnam and stuff like that. And they used to play music, all kinds of music. We used to get Spanish music, 1 hour a week. And it wasn't hell. They might play Cuban world music or Puerto Rican. Well, hell, that ain't our music. Shit, we're Tejanos, man. We need this other. We need. So, but, you get, you know, you have everybody. I'm losing my train of thought because I have so much trash in my mind. Like in Vietnam with that radio. Everybody's walking around with a radio. Everybody has the little bitty old portable radios with batteries. And where did you get the batteries? You stole them from the radio man, because you'd break it up and there were a bunch of cells in there, and you'd get one little cell and give it the other cells to other, and everybody would just attach the wires, and here you go. You had a battery to operate that radio. You always had a radio. And a lot of people had their little cameras, systematic cameras and stuff to take pictures. And you had the radio with life. You're thinking about family, everything. And then some songs, like when my buddy Reneker passed away, I went up there and I took him I played some songs that were popular in Vietnam, and I was there with his mother and sister and his girlfriend and my wife. And I was playing songs for him, and they were songs like the ones that were big time back then. One of them being John Denver's song, Take Me Home, West Virginia. Everybody loved that song. And then American Girl, everybody loved that song. There was another song, popular song called Okie from Muskogee. An Okie from Muskogee. There was the hell with those hippies and pot smokers and stuff like that, and we're true Americans. That was by Merle Haggard. That was big. I played that for Tom. And then I played that, and I played what other one? Oh, A Boy Named Sue. I don't know if you ever heard that song, Boy Named Sue. We had a guy in our unit called Sue. That was his last name, Sue. And we'd play about, I fought with my dad, and we were cutting up each other, and he bit my ear and stuff like that. So I played those songs for my boy, and we lived for those songs. We lived for the music.
Can I ask you why you're here today and why you want to talk about your time in Vietnam?
I want to talk my time about Vietnam. This is real important for me because people need to know that we have got to. I want to share with people that I was real gung-ho. And gung-ho meaning, I'm in the military. I'm proud of this, and I'm an American man. I remember out of boot camp, I'm sitting there, and we're graduating from boot camp, and they start raising the flag, and tears came down my eyes, boy. I was ready, like in boot camp. I didn't understand why they beat the hell out of us all the time. And I would tell guys, they're trying to make you, they don't need to make us better. We're willing to die. They don't have to beat us to get us to be there. We're willing to die. And I would get real angry because I wanted to go serve my country. I wanted to do this, and then they would abuse us. But I've learned that they were frustrated. The drill instructors that we had, now I understand that they were frustrated. They were burned out, and I didn't understand that. I didn't like that. I didn't like. I loved the food. The food was good. The people were good. The people that we were friends with and stuff like that, we were good. Uh, but I want them to know that there's a truth. You can't. You can't. Why do you sit there and lie to yourself? Why do you believe that? Why do you believe that you have to be tough and mean and vicious? Why? Why can't you be empathetic? You know, it took me years to learn with my sons. I'd have been a way better parent if I had known how to talk to them in a positive way, give them positive strokes rather than to play gotcha with them. And I'm a Marine, and I come from the East Side, and we need truth. You got to have the truth. We're losing the truth, and it just didn't start. It just didn't start here with these last 2 or 3 presidents. It started way back then, where people. I remember when I was here at UT, I tried to hate America. I try to hate America. I try to hate the Marine Corps still today. I did, but I love being part of the Marine Corps, and I love this country. And I want this country to survive. I want people to start going to the service again. But not just one kind of person. I worked for the Austin Police Department. Let me tell you something. And this is what I saw in the military, too. Well, let me just say, I don't even have to go to the police department. Let me go to the military. When we were in Vietnam, and then I worked I worked with recruits, okay? And we had a lot of people that were just like our drill sergeants and stuff. They would beat these kids or these young men because they didn't know how to teach. I know that now. I didn't know it back then. I just said they're frustrated. They're screwed up. Why are they doing that? I don't have to be there. I'm getting great results because I'm telling them what to do. Now, this guy is not a teacher, or he doesn't know how to teach correctly. Not everybody's made to teach. But then his excuse to get these kids, they try to scare. You're even afraid of doing the right thing. I thought the kids are afraid of doing the right thing. And you see somebody that all they do is kick ass every day, it goes to their head. It goes to their head. They get that power hungry, you know. I kick ass all the time and nobody hits me. Well, hell, these kids, they can't hit you. They're not going to hit you back, okay? I saw that. I seen that gleam in their eye. And you know what I saw during Desert Storm? And then Desert Shield, everything was okay and stuff. And then it broke loose. Desert Storm. And you saw those pilots. I saw those pilots on the news. They were talking. They would say, "Oh, I made so many sorties, and I did my job, and I blew this up, and you know, I did what I was supposed to do, and I'm doing this right, and stuff like that. And I did a good job, and we need to continue doing a good job." Simple. 2 weeks later, you're seeing the same damn pilots, and you know what you're seeing? Oh, we just burned them up, boy. We shit them, we kicked their ass, boy. We dropped them fucking bombs. Them motherfuckers are dead now, boy. They're toasted. They this and that. Now you look at them, their eyes are different. Their attitude is different. Everything, see, so you see that, and you see that in Vietnam. I saw that in Vietnam. Now I see it with this new crop of people. When do we become like the greatest American society in World War II, where we went and we're trying to do something positive? We're doing something good. When do we do this? Now, I have to be strong enough to speak and tell my friends, remind the people what we did, the people I was with. Got a lot of people I talked to that we were with. There's a difference between talking, well, I'm a Vietnam veteran. That's way different than talking to somebody that was there with me, saw what was going on with me. Those people say, you think that's proper? You think that's right? You know, like my buddy Jorge Alonso, I got a picture of him. I remember when we were there, it was Kilo 35. And them dudes stepped up on all them watermelons, man. I'm still being haunted by that. Because George, we're over here and he's talking to his children. They're grown children. He didn't have children back then. And they have children. Oh, yeah, man, we were walking through there and we stepped in front of his wife and his daughter and stuff. And we stepped on, and grandchildren, yeah, we stepped on all them damn watermelons and stuff. And the guy with the Vietnamese old man he was mad and hollering at us and, probably pleading for please. And he's making, I said, George, that's not proper, George. You destroyed his food. We destroyed his food. We screwed it up. Well, no, George, we screwed it up. And he got off that real quick. Then he went and changed the subject. But when do we see reality? When do we start training our soldiers? I'm a great believer in the military. You want a good life, you go in the military. You want to make good money, you go in the military. You want good training, you go in the military. The most successful agency in the United States is the military. Okay? I'm not stroking it. I'm saying if you want a good life, you want freedom, you want a good salary, you want to take care of your children real well, you go in the military. Go ahead.
What advice would you have for people looking to go into the military?
Know what you're going to go do, okay? Me, when I went in the Marine Corps, I just wanted to kill. Let's go. Give me my rifle. I'm going to do this. And I was good at what I did. I can prove it. The people I was with, I can prove it. I have witnesses and stuff. But then, after my son was going to join the Air Force, he was trying to join the Marine Corps first. I said, oh, no, you can't go Marine Corps. I was going to tell you, there were so many people joining the reserves because they didn't have to go to war. Now, one of the things that has changed now is that you have to. If you're in the reservists, you're going to war. They ain't going to just stay up there. A lot of people went in the reserves because they were able to, you don't know. The colleges, high schools, you had in high school, 21-year-olds going to high school as seniors or 10th graders because the teachers were keeping them in school so they wouldn't have to go to war. At the university, law degrees in the size of the law classes at the University of Texas, they went from they increased 70%, of students in law school because of professors. Even if they didn't show up to class, the professors would give them a B or C because they didn't want to see anybody go to war. So there was a lot of change like that. We don't have to do that. We can train. We're in a very high-tech war, military type of thing. That only a few people are going to really fight. It's the drones now. It's with bombs now, You just have to, we don't have we're not supposed to police the areas. That's what we did in Vietnam. They sent us to Vietnam. We went, this is what I learned. Okay, I got pictures down there to show people. The French fought the Vietnamese people for 50 years. Okay, and they got their butts kicked and they went back to France. We took over because we didn't want communism. And now look what's happening now with our government. Right now what I'm talking about. They don't want communism, so they send the American troops down there, okay? We go down there because we're going to save these people. Well, then let's save them. Let's help them. Let's give them water. Let's give them schools. Let's give them, they're poor as hell. Why can't we do that? No, we're very corrupt. We get on the side of the South Vietnamese Army, and their generals on Friday, their generals get on and captains and majors, they get on the helicopters and go home and have their parties and stuff, and then they come back on Monday, and here we are, All these corrupt people, we're supporting them. We're the corrupt as hell. We're giving them money left and right here in this country, okay, in Vietnam, okay? But we won't give these people some freedom, and we won't help them really have the American life, which is good food, water. Oh man, let's do that. We're gonna go to the Middle East. Hell, we destroy all their infrastructure. We do this, do that, and if some people don't want to change. Some people they like their. Everybody that grows up in a certain country, they love their country, and there's nothing wrong with them to love their country. And if they grow up in a society where it's like in the military, it's all starts over here. The honcho in the village is the main guy, and then and he controls all this, like in the Bible where it says, you know, I'm in charge, David's in charge, King David's in charge, and he does this. Well, then let him live like that for a while, and then change it slowly. Just educate them. And you know what? There was a guy that one of the trips that I took, that I was real interested, I was lucky to have this guy. I was talking to him and I said, well, what about he was talking, because Russia had just lost its communist party and it destroyed it. And here we were sending them money and stuff. I'm like, I was hurt, mad about this shit, here we've been fighting Russia for years, and then you saying, okay, it's okay, we're going to give you this, give you that. And he tells me, we're sitting there, and I'm talking to him because we're way out there in the middle of nowhere, and he's going through these areas that I served in, that we fought in, stuff like that. And I'm asking him, I said, what about the Communist Party? What's going to happen with with now and the Communist Party and stuff? Now we're in South Vietnam now. These are the freedom fighters. And he's talking, and he says, but he's real careful when he's talking, but he's real intelligent. And he says, I said, well, what's going to happen with the Communist? He said, I mean, is it going to happen like it did he tells me, it'll be just like Russia. The Communist Party it'll disappear. Just time. Just a matter of time, it's going to disappear. And it has been slowly but surely. It's still a Communist Party, but everybody has the right to free enterprise. Okay, everybody has the right to go to college. Everybody's getting educated. Everybody wants to be educated. And it's an awesome thing to see what they did without us. What they did without us. We need to see that. You need to go see it. These damn protesters they need to go see this so that they can say, yeah, we did the right thing. They have to say that.
I think we're coming close to time, so before we end it, I wanted to ask if there's anything I haven't asked that you would like to talk about, or if there's anything else you'd like to add.
Yeah, let me see here.
Okay.
Let me see my notes. I want to see this here. I've talked about UT. That's what I learned, boy. Be truthful. Be truthful, boy. I tried to hit him one, two. I didn't. Before I went to Vietnam, I was desperate. I was real suicidal. I was ready to kill myself. I was ready to commit suicide because I couldn't find peace. I was in limbo. I was in purgatory. That's what I felt like, I was serious purgatory. Am I going to be the good old soldier, obedient soldier, or am I going to be? I don't want to be the protester, but I don't want to be the bad guy. I don't want to die like this. I'm sick. I'm hurt. I'm in pain from what I did. Humans are no more longer. Since that time, I remember crying and crying because of the food that we destroyed over there. And I said, I don't want to be carrying this forever. I can't carry this forever. I wasn't taught to be like this. And I'm a kid. I'm a kid that grew up without a mother. I'm part of the neighborhood. They raised me. They gave me love. They gave me affection. Part of the village. I'm part of the family. I mean, when am I going to start appreciating what was given to me? So I went into teaching because I wanted to give back what I took from this earth. I wanted to do something good. And I was going to say, and back then when I was going through all this sickness, one moment I don't want to be like those protesters, but God damn it, I just want to believe the truth. Well, hell, they're preaching the truth. You don't have to like them, is what I've learned. Black Lives Matter, you don't have to like it, but are they telling you the truth? Black Lives Matter telling you the truth. Damn right, blacks are getting killed left and right. Damn right they are. You know, I need to do my part to stop it, okay? Back then, with the protesters, were they right? Yeah, but I ain't like it. I ain't going to admit it to them, not to their face. I ain't going to tell Jeff Jones you were right. Hell no, because I didn't like what he put a knife in my... I could still feel that knife in my chest, hell. And, you know, and I was a gun-ho soldier, man. I served my country and stuff like that. I just want people to know that we have to send our children to good places. We have the opportunity for our children to learn good skills, get paid good money, let them go into the service and help change the military, make it better. And it has gotten to a point to where, you know, in the military, if you don't like it, you walk away. Walk away from the military. If you don't like it, nobody's going to stop you anymore. Back then in our days, it was, oh, you're going to go to prison, you're going to... No. They don't want you there if you don't want to be there, okay? Now, but the advice I will give you, you better stay there more than 6 months, 180 days, so you can get some benefits later on when you get old and you realize that you're crippled and you need medical help and you need this. Go to the service. That's the first priority. They pay good. They feed you good. You know, you have, and you always have family in the military. I noticed that when I was in the Air Force Reserves. One of these damn lifers, we call them lifers, boy, they all have family. They all know each other. They you know, their family becomes the military. You know, you don't have to go out there and shoot. I joined the Air Force. I was working in a damn air condition. And I told my son, I said, no, we're not going to let you go to the Air Force, boy. The Marine Corps, that's not good. They're going to kill you. Hell. I said, go to the Air Force. And you go to the Air Force, and in the Air Force, over here in the Marine Corps, the officers send the peons, the enlisted people, to go out there and get killed. They're over here where it's safe. But in the Air Force, you're going to be working with people. You're going to put them on the plane, send them way off there to get killed or shoot, and you're going to be safe over here. And me, I said, look at me. I'm working at the hospital now. Somebody's got to take care of the women and the children. Let me take care of the women and the children. Let me be, you know, do a little technology now, you know. The thing is, you don't have to go. Some people like it. They want to go combat. They want to go put their feet on the ground. And you better do it if you're going to do it, because it's going to change, okay? And you have to. And there's a lot of people that are smart in the military, like especially the Air Force. Very smart. The Army, smart. Navy, so-so. The Marine Corps, the Marine Corps, you're going to just learn how to keep a rifle, unless you go into the clerical side. Then you can go do wonders with your life. But the thing I'll do one is, let's send our children. Let's give them an even chance to stay alive while they're in the military. Let's do that. Let's help them. Man, they pay good salaries now. I can't tell you the salary that they pay. You know that an officer will make over $100,000 a year on retirement? That's not counting other benefits, free medical, free all this other stuff. People don't see that. You know, there's a good future there. Very good future if you have a brain.
Okay, is there anything else, or do you feel good?
Okay. All 2 trips. You walked away, we killed over, we kept them poor, angry. Okay. Before already, this is important. They call it. They fought a lot of different people. We had a lot of. Also have a lot of stuff down there of the place that I went to, Hanoi Hilton, and my poster child, my poster soldier, had been Elliot Alvarez, the first pilot that got put in as a prisoner, got shot down in prison. Him and John McCain. John McCain is definitely a poster child, a poster soldier for me. He was a prisoner for long, went where they were at. The one thing I was really afraid of in Vietnam was being caught prisoner. And I used to tell my buddies, if they catch us, I'm going to tell them everything they want to know about you, brother. For a bowl of rice, I'll tell them anything. I'm going to tell them, I'm going to spill the beans. You know, I said, I don't want to become a prisoner, man. I'm afraid. But I knew that if I ever got caught at the prison, because we was just me and him by ourselves most of the time. We're out there by ourselves, you know, and we can. I said, if we ever get caught, I said, I'm going to. I know that when we catch prisoners, if they live longer than 30 minutes, they're going to be alive forever. So I'm going to hope I live through the first 30 minutes of being captured. So the first thing I went to go see in Vietnam when I got there in '95, I went to the Hanoi Hilton. That was a famous prison that was there for American soldiers. And they had them there because their government offices were close. They were shields. And I was always afraid of that. And I remember that because I didn't have any firepower. And I wished I had been a more empathetic person, human being there, and been. I just wish I wished I had the courage to talk like I do now back then. I wished, but that's and just I would tell people to look at the I keep the tower. Get something for yourself. You know, if you're going to, hopefully you go in the military. Hopefully you do good things and stuff like that. You want to have a good life. And me, now, I look at the tower. I can close my eyes and see the tower. I'm real brokenhearted about the fact that we can't see the tower when I go down the street. I can't do a drive-by and see the tower. But the tower, I have pictures of it, and I know it. It's ingrained in my brain. All of this, Waller Creek, Colorado River, Congress Avenue. I know all this stuff that has to be, you know, has to be truth. Okay. So.
I think that's a perfect place to stop. Mm-hmm. I just want to say thank you so much, Mr. Garcia, for sharing your experiences with us today.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for your red hair. I'm not lying. I'm gonna tell my wife. I'll say, you don't know what happened over here. My wife is gonna be thrilled. You don't act. I'm gonna tell her. If she acts up, if you act up, there's a lot of red-headed women out there, and I'm gonna leave you, girl. I'm gonna leave you, mama. This is it. I don't need you anymore. You really made you sent me back to my childhood. Oh, I didn't show them my hat, boy. Can I show them my hat?
Really quick.
This hat is God's hat, boy. This is truth. Okay? This is the truth. I can't get it on anymore, but this is what you were. People that had this kind of hat, that was God. They were gods. We were treated like gods. And we had a lot of power. And power is a wonderful thing if you don't abuse it. Okay, just don't abuse your power.
Perfect. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.